You ever get that sinking feeling when you finally decide to upgrade your home theater, only to realize the cheap budget set you grabbed a month later sounds like a radio stuck on static? I've seen it too many times. People go for a low-price 5.1 bundle, plug it in, and end up watching movies with dialogue that disappears behind a wall of tinny bass. That hesitation is what makes me pause before I click Add to Cart. If you're standing in the electronics aisle, scrolling between sleek wood-finished speakers and generic plastic boxes, ask yourself, am I going to be that person who regrets the purchase when the first action scene hits? The Klipsch 5.1 Walnut system tries to position itself as the smarter buy, promising real horn-loaded sound and a bit of that classic vintage vibe. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. So, what am I really looking at when I say smart buy? First, the category itself. Home theater 5.1 speaker systems has a lot of hidden trade-offs. You can get a set that looks great but lacks the ability to handle high-power amplifiers, or you can find a cheap combo that simply can't keep up with modern Blu-ray discs and streaming services. The Klipsch system is built around a walnut cabinet design, which is more about aesthetics than acoustics, but the real selling point is the horn-loaded tweeter and the ceremetallic woofers. Those technologies are usually found in higher-end two-way speakers, not in a bundled package. That means the system is aiming for both volume and clarity, a balance many entry-level kits miss. Who should buy this? If you already own a decent AV receiver that can deliver at least 100 watts per channel, you'll likely get the most out of the RP600M2 satellite speakers and the RP1000SW subwoofer. The RP404C2 center channel is large enough to keep dialogue clear without the nasal effect you sometimes hear with cheaper center speakers. Think of a family movie night where the kids are yelling over the latest superhero film. This system can actually separate the dialogue from the explosions, so nobody has to strain to hear the plot. Also, audiophiles who appreciate a bit of vintage sound design will love the LTS titanium diaphragm tweeter. It gives highs a crispness that feels more natural than the synthetic highs of many budget competitors. Who should skip it? If you're a minimalist who only watches content on a laptop or small TV, you'll probably never tap the full dynamic range this system can offer. Likewise, apartments with strict noise restrictions might find the subwoofer a bit too enthusiastic, even when set to a moderate level. And if you don't have the room for 4 satellite speakers plus a dedicated center channel, ideally a 12-foot or larger viewing space, those horns can become overwhelming, filling the room with sound that bounces off walls rather than immersing you. Now, let's walk through the practical strengths. The biggest thing I noticed straight away is the bigger horn design on the tweeters. In my own testing, when you fire up a scene from Inception where the city folds onto itself, the high-frequency details like the ringing of church bells and the whir of machinery don't just blur, they sit right on top of the soundtrack. That clarity comes from the LTS titanium diaphragm, which moves faster than a conventional paper cone and reduces distortion at higher volumes. It's not a lab measurement, but a real-world difference you feel in your ears. The ceremetallic woofers are another practical win. Traditional cones can compress when you push them hard, making the bass feel muddy. The ceremetallic material is stiffer, so it holds shape even under heavy bass hits. In a practical sense, that means the RP1000SW subwoofer delivers punchy lows without that rattling you sometimes hear with cheap subs. When the movie's car chases hit a low-frequency rumble, you actually feel it, but the articulation stays clean enough that it doesn't bleed into the dialogue track. A feature that often goes unnoticed in the spec sheet is the dual input terminals for bi-wiring and bi-amping. If you're the kind of buyer who already has high-quality speaker cables and an AV receiver that supports separate high and low-frequency inputs, this system lets you split those signals cleanly. In my setup, I ran the front left and right speakers with separate high-frequency and low-frequency cables to the receiver. The result was a noticeable increase in detail during complex musical passages. Think of the orchestra in Interstellar, where violins and brass occupy the same space. The system handled the split without any phase issues, something many bundled kits can't even support. On the flip side, there are practical weaknesses that matter after the initial excitement wears off. First, the walnut cabinets are beautiful, but they're also heavy. Each satellite speaker tips the scale at about 12 pounds, and the center channel is nearly 18 pounds. Moving the system around for a different seating arrangement isn't a casual affair, you'll need a second pair of hands. The weight also makes wall mounting a challenge. You'll need a sturdy mounting bracket and a solid wall to avoid any wobble. Second,